Welcome to another episode of the podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, you're getting me fresh first thing in the morning, still having my coffee. But I was dropping off my kids and I was journaling this morning on what I was going to talk about today. And it was sort of just kept coming to me as I was driving on my way home. And so I wanted to come and just talk before I started my day. So be going to the gym in a little bit, but this was my priority this morning. There's so much that I want to talk about, and there's so much that's been happening. Like the eclipses, I feel like I see this word, like this, the word stretch keeps coming. It's like stretched me out in this way of I've found this new relationship with my emotions over the past 3 months that I've been consistently meditating twice a day. And when I say the morning meditations, I still find resistance to that because I just want to sleep. Being fully honest, I'm a Taurus. I love my sleep, but my habit in my pattern for literally my entire life was to snooze my alarm like 4 or 5 times. And then I would get up like right before I had to get up. Then I was rushing through everything. So I actually love the routine that I've created. My alarm goes off, I pop in my headphones, I do a DI, I do a meditation, something. And even though I'm sort of drifting in and out of it, I'm still conscious, I'm still awake. And then it turns off and I get up and I start my day and I actually really love it. But there's still that moment of resistance when the alarm goes off and I put my headphones in. and but this word like stretching comes to me, and I share that because when we stretch something thin, I feel like there's I wouldn't say a discomfort, but what I've noticed in my body is I felt tenderness. We'll say that I felt this energetic frequency, whether it's the collective, whether it's my own emotions, especially today, as I'll get into it in a minute. But we have some Pluto transits, and Pluto, the transiting Pluto is square my natal Pluto. So all of you with Pluto and Scorpio are kind of going through this really intense square with Pluto. But again, the eclipses feel like they've stretched me. It's created this space within my being, within my system, where again, I feel so much more regulated and in tune with my emotions. And it's created this awareness of what's coming up and maybe being more able to identify what it is that's coming up. But the word stretch comes because I think it's created this space. It's created this ability to not need to react immediately to something, which has been a big struggle for me for most of my life, where I feel like I have to respond. I have to do the thing. I have to give you an answer. I have to move now. I have to, like, there's just this like quickness that I have to do something. And, in human design, I'm emotional authority. My family of origin are all sacral authority. So maybe it's that, knowing in the moment versus needing to wait. That needing to wait might not have been honored. But regardless of what it is, I've always felt this intense pressure to have to answer, to have to do something, to have to respond, to have to be in the moment, to have to like act and do. And being able to pull it out a little bit and allow myself space within my own process, I guess, or creating space as part of my process has been really beautiful and has been a lesson and a practice. But I was even thinking yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone and they asked me a question that in the moment I didn't fully, of course, it was all via text. So there was no need to respond in the moment. But a question that I wouldn't say made me uncomfortable, but, noticing your old patterns of where my initial response would be like, oh, well, I don't know. But I allowed myself the space to be stretched, right? To kind of like have that space to actually think about my answer and come to my own conclusion and then be able to share, right? And so that's a little example, but just in little ways through this eclipse season, I've found that ability to be in my own energy, to have my own space, to come to my own conclusions, to just honor myself and where I'm at and be in touch with the emotions that are coming up. And they're not all consuming, which is the way that they used to be. When I used to feel an emotion, it was always so chaotic. And this new connection with my emotions feels really beautiful. And again, it's not to say that I don't feel anything, but it doesn't feel in the way that it used to. And I really, really, really attribute this to meditating twice a day, to moving my body, to working out. And Virgo season, right, especially these eclipses and this Pisces Virgo axis, is really offering us an opportunity to heal our body, to heal our mind. It's all connected, right? We talked about it, I think, last week or the week before, where, the opposites in the zodiac, they're like different sides of the same pole, right? Like light and darkness. There's not one spot where it's like flicks or flips, right? Like it's this merging and then you come to the other side. So every single opposition will hold similar qualities, but also lessons for each other. So where Pisces is like mental health, right? Virgo rules the gut. But we know that the gut brain connection, we know that if we have an unhealthy gut, likely we're more to suffer from mental health issues like depression, anxiety, things like that. And so they are one and the same in that respect. And so being more attentive to my physical body, being more, in my body and moving my body and connected with my body has really helped my relationship with my emotions. And I'm still like kind of amazed with it. And we'll see, I always say if I'm not in a relationship, I'm good. And I'm not in a relationship right now. I'm not dating anyone or anything like that. But I have had moments of being tested within that. And it still felt pretty neutral. So we'll see. But that was coming to me this morning as I was sort of reflecting, where this ability again to just be in my emotions and be with my emotions and feel, this morning when I was journaling, I felt this very familiar like restriction and tightness that I feel in my chest. That's part of my patterns. That's part of my trauma, whatever, it's my subconscious, right? That kind of like keeps me stuck where I'm like, ooh, I can't do that thing. And I was able to witness it and be with it, but not be consumed by it. And so that felt like a really big win where I was like, okay, I'm feeling this thing. I'm feeling this tenderness. And also we just had the new moon eclipse on Sunday. We're still within that energy. It's Wednesday. So we're kind of, but we had the fall equinox on Monday evening. And I've been studying the Kabbalah with David Guillaume, but this first 48 hours of Libra season is really important and pivotal to the rest of the year, right? Like we know Aries begins the zodiac, the new year, zodiac new year, but think about Libra is halfway, right? We have Aries to Libra. Aries to Virgo is all like I centered, and then Libra to Pisces is we centered. So as we're shifting from this energy of almost like perfecting this self through different various ways, right? Like I could go through the whole zodiac and maybe I'll do that in another episode, but we have all this I-centered signs, which are, helping us in some respect within ourselves and healing a part of ourselves and becoming aware of a part of ourselves and embodying a part of ourselves. And, in the chart, the, planets are the actors. The signs are the costumes. So when you're looking at your own chart, right, it's like you have the planet as like I was just reading a book and they used this visual, and it was, for me, being such a visual person, it was so helpful. But if you think about the planet as the actor, right? So just think about Mars. So today, as I'm recording this, Mars moves into Scorpio. So Mars in mythology, Aries, was like this 300-foot like brute, right? He just like walked into a room, which obviously he couldn't fit into a room because he was 300 feet, but he would just like blaze his way in, bowl people over. He was like the warrior energy. So if you think about that being dressed up as Scorpio, right? How would Scorpio enter a room? Very like almost sneakily, right? Like it's not going to like blaze in. There's a depth to it. There's a darkness to it, right? Maybe like head to toe dressed in black. Or you think about Mars and Virgo. Virgo's kind of more put together. Virgo is like analytical. Virgo wants to make things make sense and it's going to do things a certain way. So it's like you have Mars, this like 300-foot, like knocking people over being dressed up in the suit of Virgo, right? And so as we're like moving into, things are beginning to move into Scorpio. Like today, we have Mars went into Scorpio yesterday. Mars is co-ruler of Scorpio with Pluto. And again, when we think about that, Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. Mars in Aries feels more like the toddler pulling a fit. didn't get what it wanted. It's pulling a fit. It's super expressive. There's no ill intent behind it, because Aries, when you think about Aries, is the it's the first sign of the zodiac. We went from Pisces in the womb, and now we've come into Aries. We're in this body. We're learning life. It's very like I-centered. It can be very selfish in that respect, where it's just like, I want what I want, and I'm going to act, and I'm going to get it. And like, this is what I have to do to get that thing. Mars ruling Scorpio, of course, we think Scorpio is sexuality, it's intimacy, there's depth to it. Mars ruling Scorpio is a little bit more intentional behind it. It's, being a co-ruler. Pluto is more like that deep underbelly sort of rage, where it's been collected from like ancestors. It's been collected through family, through generations and generations, and it's brewing and it's slowly coming to the surface. That's sort of like that Pluto ruling ruling Scorpio. But Mars, it's still going to hold the archetype of it. It sees what it wants, and it fights. It's the fighting principle of the zodiac, right? And it's fighting principle for the sun, which is what Liz Green describes it as. And so when we think about that in Scorpio, it's just it feels a little bit more manipulative is the word I'm looking for, secretive, where it's sort of like it's still going to act the way that Mars acts, right? It's still going to blaze forward. It's still going to do what it has to do to get what it wants, but it's going to do it a little bit more intentionally than Mars in Aries, right? And so we have this energy of Mars moving into Scorpio. And as it moves into Scorpio, it is square Pluto. Now, that is happening today, Wednesday, as I'm recording this, but we'll still be feeling it tomorrow, Thursday, as this comes out, because obviously Pluto is a slow moving planet. Mars takes about 2 years to move through the zodiac. So it will be in this square for a little while. And so Mars square to Pluto is a challenging aspect. The words that are always used when describing this aspect is explosive, destructive, accident prone. Sort of like, I don't know, I think about like last week at work, I just like I dropped a knife, or like little things like that, where it's like, okay, let's slow down a little bit, right? So it's asking for like more of a slowness, being more intentional and aware. And it's asking for a pause, like, please pause before you react to things, and also I think another lesson for us right now is really to listen. I shared this around the new moon, where it's like part of our lesson right now, I guess. That's not the right word that I want to use, but I'm going to use it. Part of our lesson right now is really to listen to each other, right? Because when we don't listen to each other, we are separated from each other. And we're really right now being called to remember that we're connected in some way, to slow down, to not just listen to somebody, but like listen to what's underneath, what they're not saying, right? I think people are very reactionary. People project a lot. And so it's like, what's actually the thing being said? And it's not that you have to let people in your life. Part of the eclipse lesson for me, I feel like, has been to have compassion and forgive people in my life that I've felt bitterness or resentment or anger towards. And again, hold your boundaries. You don't have to like include everybody in your life, but can you forgive? Can you find a way to have compassion and know that it's more for you than for the other person? We were doing this 30 days to, maybe it was manifesting. I can't remember what the exact challenge was called. It was with David Gammon, with the Kabbalah. And it was for Virgo season, because Virgo season is this time where we're being offered to like purify ourselves to then enter into Libra season. So a big chunk of the work was moving through and forgiving like family history and family stories, and or anyone close to you that has triggered you, or have you felt has harmed you in some way in your life, because those people that come in and offer you so much challenge are really the people who hold the biggest lessons for you. And that can be really hard for our ego and our mind. And again, it's not to forgive bad behavior, and it's not to allow somebody in your life that's intentionally trying to harm you, but it's to see those people as lessons. Like, what is it that you need to learn? Like, I know for myself, every single person that's been an absolute challenge for me in my life has come in to teach me self-worth and boundaries, like full stop. I dated someone for over 2 years, and that was like, the person wasn't a bad person. which was, I think, one of the hard things, because I had been so used to dating people who it was just so easy to leave because they were intentionally trying to manipulate or harm me, or there was like a blowout fight, or there was something where it's just easy to be like, okay, I'm done with you. But when somebody is not intentionally trying to hurt you, but just isn't good for you, those are the relationships that are actually really hard to walk away from. But I'm so grateful for that, as challenging as it was, because I learned, like, I had to love myself harder because I wasn't getting it from elsewhere. And that was the lesson, right? Was to hold boundaries and to like love myself. And I'm grateful for that lesson. But when I think about every challenging relationship in my life, those are the two things, like self-worth and boundaries. And so now, like moving forward in dating, I really hold those values high within myself, and knowing what I value, knowing what I'm looking for, and not feeling like I'm wrong because somebody doesn't hold the same values. I used to do that a lot, where it was like, if I held the value and I shared it and somebody didn't agree with it, then I would just be like, oh, well, I must be wrong. I must be wrong. Right. But it's like, no, just because somebody doesn't hold the same values, the same perspective, or the same views does not mean that my view is wrong. And I have to trust and hold in alignment with myself, that the things that I'm looking for will come to me. Right. And I think that sometimes we have tests of that. And yeah, so I don't know how I even got on all the dating things. Oh, finding lessons, right, in the people that kind of trigger you, or challenging relationships in your life. And so, yeah, that's been a huge lesson. And, eclipse season is also a huge times of endings and beginnings. I know a lot of people who are ending relationships, things are falling away. And of course, if something ended or fell away, like during the eclipse season, it was meant to. And so kind of like honoring that and listening to that and just like letting it go, as challenging as it can be, but maybe like seeing what the lesson was for it. I had somebody reached out to me like literally on the eclipse, but it was kind of funny, like astrologically, because Virgo was their seventh house. So it was like, makes sense that they would then reach out to me on the eclipse. But it was, for me in that situation, a past version of me would have responded or would have shown up or would have gone to see them. But this version of me is like, no, it actually doesn't work. Like, not that person's a bad person, but it just, the dynamic hasn't worked for a long time. So just because maybe there's some sort of emotion happening doesn't mean that it's going to work now. And so like honoring that part of myself, and honoring the path that I'm on and the direction that I'm going. So all of that has been coming up. But again, it's really coming back to that space that I've created within myself, the space to honor what I actually want and what I want to say, the space to come back. Like, I was listening to a podcast earlier that I used to listen to all the time. And over the last like year or two, I've tried to listen to it here and there, but I just keep getting this heavy feeling as I listen to it. And I completely respect the individual who hosts the podcast. They're really, really super popular. Like I said, I used to be in that world, and then something just kind of like didn't feel good for me. And I don't think it's a reflection of like that person being bad or anything like that. It's more just like the message no longer aligns with me. And so it popped up on my phone this morning, and sometimes, like I just like to follow the threads of whatever. And so I was like, oh, maybe there's a message in this podcast for me. And so I popped it on, and I made it like 10, 15 minutes in, and I was like, I don't know that I can keep listening to this. I just like had that feeling. And maybe the lesson was just like honoring myself, and I don't know, but I think that we constantly, especially with the social media and the scrolling, it's so easy to outsource, or everybody's got an opinion, like I go on Instagram and it's like, you should be doing this and you should be doing that and you should be doing this. And yes, I think there are like best practices, I'm air quoting, best practices of like business and entrepreneurship and marketing and all those things, like social media. There are obviously the algorithm. There are things that work, in business. It's like, have freebies, and there's just like funnels and all that stuff. But I also think within that, and this is actually what I wanted to start with, but we, inside the Inner Mother Collective, are doing this business mastermind. So if you're interested in joining us, the Inner Mother Collective, Your Sacred Unraveling is housed in there. So we have monthly moon circles. I just did a human design parenting workshop yesterday. We have like little coffee chats. We have energy, like there's so much in there. But one of the things that we're going through is this business mastermind, and sort of this new Aquarian age of like unschooling obviously the school system, but then also how we're doing business. Because I think a lot of people, especially in this entrepreneurial or spirituality sphere, right? People with spiritual based businesses, it's like, okay, well, we're going to be in our flow, and we're going to be in our receivership and our feminine. And we just move from one hustle to another. And we're still playing into that like masculine 9 to 5 sort of mentality. And so the whole point of this business mastermind is to really unschool and to really lean into like our human design and our astrology and like what works and what doesn't, right? And it's the Inner Mother Collective is this beautiful feminine way. You don't have to be a mother to be in there, because we're all birthing something, whether it's a creation, whether it's an actual human being, right? Like there's so much, but it's just this really feminine way to connect with each other, to support each other. And one of the really cool things that kind of sparked my attention at first, because I always love everything that I always love everything that Jessie Eccles does. And so when she first came to me with this idea, I was like, absolutely. But part of it is this transference of money in a new way. And so there is this, beautiful transference of money within the collective. And I think this is a really new age, new Aquarian way of doing things. But kind of going back to that unschooling, like, we go from the corporate 9 to 5 and we're like, we're going to be entrepreneurs and we're going to do things differently. And I'm going to be my feminine, but yet we're still like falling into the hustle and grind. And the reason that I mention this with the whole social media thing is that we go on there and we just constantly have these messages. We're bombarded with messages of what we should be doing and what it should look like. And buy this course. And I think just like all of that being said, really, I mean, when we think about like dating and self-worth and our values, like Venus in your chart is your values, right? So like leaning into that, but like coming into yourself and understanding what you value and what you want and getting really clear on that. Because what's the saying? Like if you don't believe in anything, you'll fall for everything. Or if you don't have a clear idea of your values, you're going to fall for everything. You're going to be pulled in all these different directions because you don't have a sense of your own core values within yourself. You don't have a steady connection with your own self and your own energy. And when you don't have that, like you're pulled in so many different directions. Like everybody's trying to tell you what to do. And it's just like, you're being pulled everywhere. Right. And so like really coming inside and like having that strong sense of like, this is what I value. This is what I want. And I feel like I've gotten that really clear. Like I used to not, oh my gosh, I literally would fall for everything. And I think like a lot of my spiritual beliefs, like I always say, like, I believe everything because like, I believe everything is possible. But like coming back to myself and knowing what feels right in my system and knowing, like understanding my body and like my body's responses. And like, even listening to that podcast, like I just felt that discomfort, like not even discomfort. I just felt that like resistance in my system. And so I turned the episode off and I flipped to something else and it was fine. Right. I don't know why I don't resonate with that podcast anymore or that individual anymore. It doesn't really matter. It's not up to me, or it's not that it's not up to me. It's just, it doesn't matter. It's not anything. It doesn't mean anything about them. It doesn't mean anything about me. The message just doesn't resonate, and that's fine. And so like kind of honoring that as you like navigate through your day. And coming inside, and whether you're journaling, getting really clear, maybe you put it on the notes app in your phone, but like getting really clear on the things that you value. I was listening to a different podcast yesterday. I don't remember which one it was. It might have been the Expanded podcast, but yeah, I think it was the Expanded podcast. And this woman was reading out her manifestation list for her partner. And I've made a manifestation list for a partner. And, as the years have gone by, I've gotten more and more clear, but this person was so clear and so detailed. And so it was like listening to like a journal entry. It was so elaborate. And as she was reading it, she's like, my partner is literally all these things. And it's just the more clear you get on whatever it is, whether it's a partner, whether it's just a career goal, whether it's, I don't know, like your parenting, whatever it is, the more clear you get, the more contrast you'll see outside of yourself, but the more like centered in that vision you'll be able to come back to. And I think that's what's so important right now. Right. And again, like I started this with talking about like that visual I see of like being stretched, not stretches in like tight and uncomfortable, but maybe the space has been stretched out is more of the visual. It's not the tautness or the tightness of being stretched, but it's just the space that's been allowed, that's been stretched out and pulled out to allow myself to, in moments where my patterning comes in, where I initially want to say, I don't know, right? Like that's always my thing. Like, what do you think? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want? Like always, I would always say, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, because I truly did not know. I didn't know myself. I didn't know like whatever. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know anything. I just was just like so low self-worth and all those things. But now I know. And so sometimes I have those moments where in the moment, my response is, I don't know, because I feel like I don't have the time to like move through it. I also have Mercury and Taurus. So I need a minute. I need slowness. I need space to really come to kind of like solidify what's going on in my mind to communicate it out. And so creating that space has allowed me to bypass the I don't know, or rather just stretch it out, right? Where I don't need to answer you right now. Let me actually center in and release the anxiety or whatever it is around it. I don't know what the right word is. And then come to my knowing and be like, okay, now we're here. Now we're calm. We got it. And something else I wanted to share, we're moving through in your sacred unraveling. So your sacred unraveling is now inside the inner mother. Your sacred unraveling is now inside the inner mother collective, but we still have the broadcast channel. And what we're going through in the broadcast channel are these 6 codes to authentic alignment. And so the very first code is nervous system regulation. First and foremost, we have to find a way to regulate ourselves in our system. So even in that small example of my initial go-to is, I don't know, because I feel the pressure to have to answer right now. And my trauma or my past or my nervous system or my subconscious or whatever it is kind of almost feels like it shuts down when I feel that pressure, to allow myself to just like breathe. I don't need to answer right now. Or I can take a pause. I am so safe to just like be awkward and let the silence mingle for a minute. Like I don't have to like fill this space constantly. I was hosting that human design and parenting, human design and parenting workshop last night. And I still get nerves when I host a workshop, when it's, live and there are people there. And it's so, it would be so easy for that fear to talk myself out of showing up in the future. And I'll have a moment where I catch myself where I'm like almost out of breath or I'm speaking really quickly. And then it's like, just breathe. There's no rush. There's no need. And the more that I do those things, the less that I feel anxious, right? And so I still feel it briefly, but that also tells me that I'm excited to do these things, right? There's still a lesson there, and it's exciting to show up and connect with people and do workshops. And there was only one person on the call yesterday, but like I know people are going to watch the replay, and it wasn't like I wasn't anxious. I think sometimes I still get that little imposter syndrome, the little flare of imposter syndrome, like, do I know enough to teach about this? And I think that's just that open heart center. And so having awareness of like all of the stuff and like feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I'm reading this book. I'll get back to code 1 in a minute, but I'm reading this fantasy book, and I should grab it and just read it. But I loved this one line that she had, because this one character that I'm reading about, she is so innocent and so naive at the same time as she's really strong, and she has been taught to fight. And she's kind of like learning life. But her backstory is that she witnessed her parents being murdered in front of her. And so she decided, she's like, I will never be helpless again, because she was young and she couldn't fight. And they're living in a world where women are not allowed to learn how to fight. So she kind of like learned on the, in secret how to fight and defend herself and use knives and stuff like that. But she's sitting there with these vampires, right? And and the one, he's like, I don't know, he's like the uncle of a king or something like that. And he's like, you have no fear speaking to me. Like, do you know who I am? And do you know what I can do? And she's like, it's not that I don't have fear speaking to you. I'm fully aware that you could literally snap my neck or like kill me before I could even take my next breath. She's like, but I'm choosing to honor myself and like show up despite the fear that I feel, because I have to be me. And I was like, that is literally what it is. Like, feel the fear and do it anyway. Obviously, we're not all sitting at the table with vampires, but it's still the idea that I just loved that message in that book, where it's like, as the reader, you have the insight into her mind, right? Like as the reader, you see and you're described the anxiety and the fear, and her heart's pounding as she's got this attitude with these vampires and she's standing up to them, but they don't perceive it that way, right? And so I think sometimes when you're inside your own body and your own mind, like when I'm on a call and I feel myself being anxious and I'm like almost out of breath, or I'm like, I feel my heart racing, it's not necessarily that anybody else other than me can feel that, but it's like feeling the fear and doing it anyway, because doing it anyway is a thing that will help you change. And so the doing it anyway and the nervous system regulation is key. Being able to pause, take a breath, whatever you need to do. Like there are things you can do in the moment, right? Like take a deep breath, take a sip of water, find a way to pause. And sometimes just being transparent, like, guys, let's drop in, right? Like, let's put our feet on the ground. Let's take a breath right now. Let's just drop in for a minute, right? Like when I think about when I'm on a call or if I'm in a workshop or if I'm in a program, I never like question when the facilitator does stuff like that. And it might be more for them than it is for us. But I feel like as long as you're not harming anyone, this is what I tell myself all the time. Like, as long as my intentions are pure, as long as I'm not trying to harm or manipulate or intentionally hurt anybody, like, who cares? Who cares what people think? Who cares how people respond to you? Who cares what you do? Like, be yourself, be true to yourself. And for me, sometimes that is stretching out that space. And what I work on more is verbally telling people like, hey, I need some space, instead of just ignoring, because that was my past patterning of just like ghosting or ignoring and getting my space that way. And then like facing it when I absolutely had to, that procrastination piece, which is something that I'm currently working on. That's one of my shadows that I'm working on. But anyway, so that code 1 is that nervous system regulation piece. So important. Coming into your body, nurturing your body. Like I will always speak to this because our food system is terrible. Let's be honest. It's so, and I always speak to people and their response is like, it's so hard to eat healthy. And it is because there's so many messages. There's so much, like you go to the food store and I can't remember what book it was, but they were talking about it. It's like, I think it was Atomic Habits by James Clear. I could be wrong about that. So if you know what book this is from and it's not that one, I do apologize. But I will always think about this analogy where it's like, he was talking about willpower. And, when you're an alcoholic, or if you're trying to quit smoking, or you're a sex addict, or whatever, these are like extreme points of view, I guess, or they're extreme examples. Willpower isn't like walking into a brothel or walking into a bar or going into like a smoke shop and just being like, no, right? Like willpower is actually knowing not to put yourself in those situations, right? Like I haven't had a drink since the beginning of July. So it's almost like 3 months. Actually, I had one drink in 3 months. And it's easy for me because I'm not going to bars. I'm not going, like, for me, oh my gosh, put me in a wine bar. Like, yeah, I'm going to have a drink. So it's not that I'm actively not putting myself in those situations. And I'm actively telling people like, hey, I'm not drinking right now. I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know. I just know that I feel good and I'm staying in my own body. Right. And so it's not putting yourself in those situations and saying no. It's not putting yourself in those situations so that you can say no, so that you can readjust to a life without it. So you can create new habits, new routines, which take, I don't know. Some people say 21 days, people say 3 months, people say 6 months, whatever. It's a long period of time because you have to rewire and retrain your brain and your nervous system and your subconscious to not associate that with certain things. Right. And then of course, like slowly, like, what do they say? Exposure therapy, right? Like you can slowly then like maybe go to a bar with a friend or go to a wine bar with a friend or like whatever in like small ways, whatever it is. But the thing with food, so it's like you can't not go to the grocery store. Like, yes, I will say nowadays you can order it online, which avoids the whole grocery store issue. But even at that, right? Like there's still going to be a temptation because and I just think that there is a lack of education on what actually a healthy diet looks like. But I'm reading a book on esoteric astrology. And even in that book, the author has said so many times, like, one of the biggest things is take care of your body, take care of your diet, take care of your health, move your body. And it doesn't have to be in extreme ways. For me in my own life, I've kind of followed that 80-20 rule where it's like 80% of the time, I home cook my meals. They're all natural ingredients. They're all healthy. But I'll admit, like, ever since I quit drinking, I want sugar. So I will sometimes, more than sometimes, I will have like a cookie or two at night. And so that 80-20 rule, 80% of my day, I'm eating healthy. That 20%, yes, I have the cookie. And so not every single day, but my kids also love dessert. And so it's something that we're all dealing with at home. But 80% of the time, I'm home cooked meals, real ingredients. I go to the farmer's market on the weekend. I get my eggs. I buy organic where I can. Anything that you eat the outside of is I buy organic. Anything that you eat the outside of, you should be buying organic. And I fully understand it can get expensive. My son and I have started to substitute the word expensive for luxurious. Like I bought rice at Sprouts the other day, and I think it was $9. That was like the cheapest bag of rice was like $9. And then I went to Trader Joe's and I got a bag like triple the size for $3.99. And so I was like telling my son, I was like, remind me not to buy rice at Sprouts. And he was like, why is it super expensive? I was like, well, it's just really luxurious. And look at the size of the bag I got at Trader Joe's. And so it's just like kind of our little, I try and have my kids be very aware of the way that they say things. And so anyway, that's a whole side note. But the point being, like, taking care of your body, and it doesn't have to be, again, this big dramatic change overnight, but just like in little ways, right? Like moving your body every day, just go for a walk. Doesn't have to be anything extreme. Go for a walk outside. That's actually the best. I try and do that at least 3 to 4 days a week, is just like I walk to the gym. This morning I can't because it's going to rain, but I get outside, I get the sunlight. I make sure I don't wear my sunglasses so that I'm getting like the actual light in my eyes. I wear a hat. But that's sort of like that piece of it, right? So those things really help with the nervous system regulation too, because it's like tending to your body, feeling good in your body. Like my back was hurting for a long time. And oh my gosh, like on Sunday, I almost wanted to cry at work, but I just have kept telling myself, especially like over the last week or two, I've really reframed it. And I've just been like, I love my body. I love living in my body. I'm so grateful that my soul gets to live in this body. Like, how amazing is that? And I've just kept saying that. Even when my back was like really hurting at work, I would just stop and I'd reframe it and be like, I am so grateful that this is the body I get to live in this life. And I feel it's started to feel so much better. And so like really tending to and caring for your body. And yeah, it's actually really interesting too. Like now that I'm just thinking about it out loud, I had a moment on Sunday night where I had like a family pattern. Really, like I had like a huge aha moment, and it didn't hurt on Monday. And so like I literally was like, because I was thinking last week, I was like, okay, maybe there's something trapped, some sort of emotion, some sort of like anger, something that needs to be released. And yeah, after I got that aha, like I really haven't felt the pain. Interesting. I'm just processing that out loud right now, but that makes a lot of sense. But anyway, so yeah, that nervous system regulation, first and foremost, if we are not regulated in our system, if we don't have the tools to regulate, like we're going to be so reactionary, we're not going to understand. And so that is like first and foremost nervous system regulation in whatever way that looks for you, whether that's getting a walk outside, whether that's just like sitting in child's pose, dancing, yoga, meditation, breath work, whatever it is, breathe, just create space, spend some time alone. Nervous system regulation is absolutely number one. We cannot do the work in an unregulated system. Like we have to have that as our core piece. Code 2 is emotional authority, or not, sorry, it's not emotional authority. It's your human design authority. It's listening to your authority. So once you're regulated in your system, then you can come into your body and listen and honor like your decision-making in your body. So there are 7 different authorities. I'm sure there's another episode, and I'm not sure. There is another episode on human design. I'll link it. I'll find it and link it below. So you can listen to get more in depth on that, but like honoring your body, getting out of the mind. This is like my favorite thing about human design. It gives us like a logical way to like keep our mind not distracted, to keep our mind focused, maybe is the word I'm looking for. I don't know. But it gives us like this step-by-step like blueprint to get out of the mind and into the body, right? And so it's, first of all, it's an experimentation process, but like once you're regulated, once you have the tools to be regulated, then you can really come into your body and just listen to the yes and no's, listen to the messages from your body, right? Like this morning I was sitting there journaling and I just felt that very familiar tightness in my chest. And I was like, I don't have to make this mean anything, right? This is likely because I was listening to a Kabbalah call yesterday in this first 48 hours, and he was like, don't think about anything negative. Don't be negative because this sets the stage. And so, of course, then everything in me is probably trying to self-sabotage. I'm like, let's be the most negative we can be. And so, like, being aware of that and being like, okay, I feel it, but I'm not going to let this like consume me. I'm not going to make this mean anything. So like experimenting with playing with your authority. And Astro Design School starts October 14th. This is going to be a whole 6-month journey into your human design, into your astrology, tracking the transits, being in your body, embodied, the whole thing. It's going to be really beautiful. So if you want to join that, the link is also down below. So those are like the first two. Code 3 is rhythm and consistency. So being consistent with these practices, showing up, creating a rhythm, creating a routine, right? The fourth code is frequency. Your frequency speaks louder than your words, and your words are so powerful, right? So it's like this double thing. I think that a big message that's been coming to me has been, if you can't control your thoughts, control your words, and it will eventually have impact. So if you find it really difficult to manage your thoughts, manage your words. Be really so attuned to what you're saying. Take a pause before you speak. But regardless, your frequency speaks louder. When you walk into a room, you know how you can just like sense someone, like, especially even if they're saying the right things, but you just have this feeling where you're like, they don't feel genuine to me, even though they're saying all of the right things, right? Like, whether we are consciously aware of it or not, our frequency, our energy speaks for us before we even open our mouth, right? So I think like when you're using your words intentionally, not just bullshitting people, but like intentionally trying to use your words in a more effective way and a more magical way, because this is right, like Mercury, your words rules the magician card in the tarot. The magician is just like creating magic through the spoken word. Manifestation, we can manifest and call things into a reality through a spoken word. That's so powerful. Fifth code is shadow work, right? Your shadows are sacred. Understanding that your shadows are sacred. So within, this is what Richard Rudd talks about a lot in the Gene Keys. In every shadow is a gift. Your shadows are actually magnetic when we come inside and accept them, because we are all duality. When we accept every part of ourselves, the things that we try and keep hidden from even ourselves, like when we accept those things, it's really a beautiful thing. That's when our gifts, when we can transmute that energy, we can lean into our gifts. Again, every gift or every shadow holds a gift. And so accepting those shadows of yourself and understanding that, again, your shadows are actually sacred, and to be with them and to come into them and to honor them, right? That's huge, huge part of this process, and one of the steps in, you know, these 6 codes to authentic alignment. And then the final one is invitation over force. And I'm not saying invitation like I'm a projector, I need to be invited. What I mean is surrendering and being receptive and not trying to force things. Like, we are not all designed to initiate. Excuse me, my throat. Human design teaches us this. We are not all designed to initiate. And so when we can, you know, when we're generators, right? Allowing the universe to give us things to respond to. When we're projectors, again, quite literally allowing the invitation. Reflectors, allowing yourself to be surprised and to take the time, to take the space to come to your own conclusion. Even manifestors, yes, manifestors are here to initiate. If you're emotional authority, you have to wait. And if you're not, like, you have to inform, right? There is this pause before we initiate. But because initiation is what is correct for a manifestor, it's not being forced, right? We know things are forced when we find resistance, when we're pushing back on something, when we feel uncomfortable, and we know there's something, when we know we're like pushing something that doesn't feel aligned. Like we all know that feeling. And so it's invitation over force. So these 6 codes are really like, I'm diving really deeply into them more so inside Your Sacred Unraveling. And I think I'm going to create a PDF, little like guide, because this is just something I've just been witnessing in my own life of the ways that I feel most authentic and aligned, and aligning them with human design and astrology. We're going more deeply into the astrological human design correlations to each code, again, within Your Sacred Unraveling. So all the links are down below. Your Sacred Unraveling is housed in the Inner Mother Collective. So if you click the link, it's going to bring you to the Inner Mother Collective. Once you get inside of there, go to the Your Sacred Unraveling tab, and then you'll have the link for the broadcast channel, which is where I put a lot of the channelings, downloads, conversation, and then there's a full moon, new moon circles inside the Inner Mother Collective, as well as a monthly workshop. So we just did our human design and astrology one. We might do, I'm undecided what I'm going to do for Libra season, but I think I'm going to do composite, like relationship charts, like connection charts, and how to read a connection chart, what to look for, things like that. But that'll all be up in the next week or so. I'm going to put those calls in there. But that's what I got for you today. Like I said, I was just like driving on my way home. Oh my gosh, it's 46 minutes. Did not think that I was talking for that long. No wonder my throat's getting dry. But yeah, I was just on my way home, and I was like, before I go to the gym, I really am feeling called to speaking on the podcast and recording the podcast episode. So I hope that was helpful. If you've listened this far, I thank you for being here, for being with me. And if the transits are feeling intense, like I said, there's a lot of Pluto activations going on. So if you are the Pluto in Scorpio generation and you're having this square, yes, it's going to last for a while because Pluto moves really slowly. I have Pluto widely opposite my sun, or sorry, my moon. My moon is at 8 degrees of Leo. Pluto, I think it's still at 1 degree because it's in retrograde. So it's like still at 1 degree of Aquarius. I'm going to check right now so I can tell you exact. Actually, it's probably my book, but Pluto is it's at 1 degree of Aquarius. So it's going to be a while before it comes into an exact opposition, but it's still being felt. And so like understanding in the system how that feels and regulating myself. So I think that, again, these 6 codes and just like having compassion and the lessons of this eclipse season are huge. I know a lot of people have been feeling it. So yeah, that is the episode today. Again, join the Inner Mother Collective. Join us inside Astro Design School. Follow me on Instagram at Rochelle.Christiane. That's ROCHELLE.CHRISTIANE. TikTok is the same. Substack, I write a post every single week. YouTube, all the links you need are down below. I thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you soon.